Oh, good morning. Didn't know you were there. Welcome to day 45 of Geriatric 1944's Coronavirus Diaries. Are you yet sick of the word coronavirus? Are you sick of COVID-19? Are you sick of stupid government saying, the fact that we built Nightingale hospitals with capacities of 4,000 and we only used 13 of the beds is a good thing because it shows how the lockdown is working. And now that the tests have plummeted and there's only 70,000 a day being sent out as opposed to the 100,000 that Mad Matt Hancock promised, it's a good sign because people don't need to be tested anymore because the lockdown's working. And I say to the government, well, screw you, fuck you, the lockdown. If the lockdown's working, how come 4 countries, the UK, France, Italy and Spain, have had around 30,000 deaths each from coronavirus? And that's 120,000 of the 250,000 total. Most of the rest come from America, the USA, which has a population of 330 million. So the 80,000 deaths there are actually very trivial because it's a tiny percentage of the population, all mainly concentrated in New York and the urban areas. If you look at all those and you add them all together, you get 200,000. Rest of the world, 50,000 deaths. The entire rest of the world, 50,000 deaths. That is what I call a trivial virus. And you look at all the individual countries, very few. They're all under 10,000 deaths. So what is this success? Thank you, Keir Starmer, who I have to say is turning out to be rather a good leader of Labour. Thank you for pointing it out to Boris Johnson. Dear Boris, what are you talking about? How can you claim this stupid lockdown has been a success? In South Korea, where they didn't have a lockdown, there have been 250 deaths. Population 51 million, 250 deaths. It really makes you despair. But today I want to talk about sex. Much more fun. Well, actually, mainly entertainment. I don't know about you, there's been some really good stuff on television lately. I'm glued to this Devs, D-E-V-S, on BBC Two. It's gone all the way through and tonight is the last episode and I'm absolutely glued to it. It's terribly unusual, very different. If you've not caught it, do catch it on iPlayer because it's really an interesting TV series and well worth watching, with some very shocking scenes, by the way, especially last night. Anyway, I recommend Devs. But I've found a lot of the time that there's nothing really on telly I want to watch, so I end up on either Talking Pictures TV or the Sony Movies channels, which are terrific, which I've really discovered recently. Sony Movies Classic is my particular favourite, but last night I watched a film I'd never even heard of before, and it was called Risen. And it was on one of the Sony Movies channels, and it was about the rebirth of Jesus Christ after he was crucified. And it was actually really good. I've never heard of it before. It was made a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, 2016, I think. And it starred, amongst other, Joseph Fiennes and Tom Fenton. You remember the guy who played Draco in the Harry Potter films. But most of all, as Pontius Pilate, Peter Firth. And that got me thinking, because I remember Peter Firth when he was a young lad, and he arrived in London and started sort of being around and about, and all us queens really fancied him. He was really pretty. He was about 17, 18 years old, and absolutely gorgeous. We couldn't get near him. We met him and we saw him at various things and we kept trying to get into conversation with him. We couldn't get anywhere near him, mainly because he had a really good agent, who I think is still his agent or manager, called, if I remember rightly, Peter Froggatt, who was very nice and knew exactly what we were all after and actually advised Peter very wisely, look, if that's not your scene, don't do it. And Peter, wisely, it wasn't his scene, decided not to do it and never did. I think he's been married several times since. really good actor. I have to say, even though I got nowhere near, unfortunately and sadly, I have seen him naked, and so have many other people, because not only did he turn into be a very good actor, but he started in something called Equus, the very first production of Equus, Peter Shaffer's play, both here in the West End and also in New York on Broadway, where he was completely stark naked. And an awful lot of queens went to those just in order, actually it was a great play anyway, but mainly in order to see Peter naked. And that's as close as we ever got. But those were the days. They were the days, don't forget, when being gay was completely illegal. And that changed in, I think, 1967 to being okay if you were both over 21. And it then remained there right up until the 1990s, when they grudgingly allowed it down to 18. And then finally, 2 days after my arrest, no coincidence, people have told me, finally in the year 2000, the ages of consent were equalised when, because of pressure from Europe, the British agreed that basically males were just as capable as females at deciding at what age they could consent to fall in love and have sex. But in those heady days in the 60s, I was the one sort of rebel, long before Bowie and Elton and all the others, to start making tracks that were aimed at the gay community and that were basically saying, hey, you know, it's fine to be gay. And I remember I recorded one track which I really liked, and it was actually the B-side of one of my singles, Cherry Cherry, which came out in 1970, I think. And basically, I remember, even though I loved it, it was the B-side, so it didn't get much play, but it caught fire in all the gay clubs. And I remember being down in Cannes, where I used to go to a lot, and still do, until this silly coronavirus hit. I should be there later this year if I can. Anyway, I was in Cannes, there were a lot of gay clubs in Cannes, and I went into one of the clubs, and there, again and again, being played and danced to, was one of my singles, the B-side of Cherry Cherry, Gay Girl, which I now see, looking it up on Google, there are loads of vinyl copies of it around, and I see it's actually had a name change in places like Spain and Italy and France and around the world. Cherry Cherry sold quite well for me, although it was never a big hit, and also, by the way, I think quite a good record, but Gay Girl has done very nicely for me over the years. So I'd like to end this day's diary by playing you Gay Girl. I hope you enjoy it. See you tomorrow.
Gay girl, you are such a gay girl. You are such a high-flying, good-looking, groovy-moving, hippy-flippy gay girl. Saw you, met you, asked you for a date that night, said you might, you really might come with me. Held you